So, hello guys and welcome to this month Patreon, May Patreon, and we will building something like that. So we will create some Vellum sims, play around a little bit, and then go finally into the shading. Um, those style frames were created in the newest Redshift version, so I think it's 3.502, I think. And yeah, so just some close-ups, um, a really good amount of depth of field, and thin film based. Also included bump mapping, so you can or we can play around with those two. And yeah, we will create those style frames or like similar, maybe with other colors, other backgrounds, etc. So we will start in Houdini, and yeah, so let's just close that, don't save it, and let's start in H. Okay, let's just close that down. We will disable all domes. Let's just keep the camera. Background, we can build that up later too. Okay, we got pretty much a blank scene here. And let's start with our vellum stuff. So there are several ways you can deal with vellum. For example, you can go with a grid, remesh it, play around with different attributes, for example. Yeah, copy it, displace it a little bit, etc., etc. So we will do that. You can start with a planar patch, for example. Those are pretty cool too, because you basically got groups in there, so groups are already built in there, and you can play around with those. So let's do that. Let's just get that to set explain and edge length. So this is or determines pretty much the resolution on our planar patch. So for example, 10 times the resolution, and you will get something like that here. Let's just go not too high so we can iterate a little bit faster. Then, for example, I place down a distance along geometry, so we can, for example, work later with that kind of attribute. So let's connect that here. And now we can get out here different seam groups. So for example, let's choose the right seam here. And now we will get a group here, planar patch underscore right on a point group. And we can use that point group in our distance along geometry. So start points, planar patch underscore right. And we will output an attribute called dist. Let's visualize that. And now you can see we've got an attribute here. And let's go to our geometry spreadsheet, and we got roughly 1.0220. We can fit that range. Either you do it like with an asset you build, or I will just do it with my asset. You can download that on Gumroad, or a non-procedural way would be the remap, attribute remap, so you can compute the range here, for example. And it will sometimes clamp, I think, a little bit. Yeah, clamp of edge to edge value. But yeah, you could use that, for example, too. If, for example, the planar patch is a little bit higher, well, longer, then you got a distance from 2, and then you can compute range here. that will be the dist, compute range, and you will get an input min, input max, and then you can refit it, for example, from 0 to 1. But you need to do that every time, compute range, and it's non-procedural, for example, in loops with different min and max values. But yeah, you can download a node like that or build it up on your own. Okay, let's get like that and maybe 1.5, or let's make it a little bit longer, 1.75. That should be fine. So dist is fitted, so now between 0 and 1, so we can use that later. Another thing what I also like to do is to either use band or an attribute swap, but of course we can use both. So let's get a band in here. Let's got it on top view, and for example we can set the bounding region or the capture region of our piece here, and then we can start to bend it just a little bit, for example, or you can also twist it a little bit. That's fully up to you. After that, I will just place a copy and transform it a bunch of whole times. So for example 5 times. I figured that 10 here. Yeah, let's just go to 8 here to iterate. And now you can, for example, play with the height of the extrusion or on the translation here. That's fully up to you. And another thing what I did here is to just get a little WOP included. And there's a viewport error, I think. Let's just reset the viewport. Okay, so now what we can do in here, we can place, for example, an anti-alias noise, connect that to the position, and displace it out along a normal. So we will just displace the whole thing here. And for example, from my point of view, that's a little bit too rough. So what we can do, we can bump down the roughness parameter here, for example 0.15, and then also get a parameter started, and maybe I think that's fine for now. So you can play here with that, and let's just get one other parameter and call it off. That will be the offset, and that will be the frequency. Frag. Nice. Well, no. Frag. Okay, perfect. Now we can play with those on the top level, so a little bit easier access here. So offset and frequency. Of course, you can also animate them if you want to, but I think that's fully fine for now. Now let's place down a vellum cloth. Vellum configure cloth and vellum solver. Place that down too. Okay. I don't remember but I think it was yeah, let's just get the stretch ratio down, damping ratio a little bit smaller. I think band, I changed band a little bit to 0.1, and oh yeah, let's just get the thickness here. But I think that should be fine. Yeah, that's fine for the thickness part. Okay, now we got our vellum solver, and for example, when we hit play, it will just collapse and basically fall down because of the gravity. So let's just disable gravity and get a few forces in here. For example, a pop axis force, and a pop wind and attract. That should be fine for now. Okay, we've got now 3 nodes here. We just colored that. It's the wrong bluish tone. Let's get a pop access force in here. And what I want to do here, I will increase the height a little bit and the radius. And I want a little bit of a suction speed. So now when we play, it will get a little bit sucked inside. Of course, you can play with that. So for example, 5 will give you like an orbit speed, so an orbital rotation, a little bit. But the suction parameter currently is of course higher, and it will basically suck the whole cloth piece together. And you can also do that with a pop attract. But what I want to do, I want to use that pop access force more with an orbital. And then I want to introduce a pop wind for a little bit of imperfectionness. And a pop attract with an inward force. And let's play around with the amplitude. That also looks pretty okay. So of course you can now iterate on those parameters. And let's just do that. Let's get the swirl scale and make it a little bit smaller. Amplitude on 4, and what I want to do, I want to make the planar patch a little bit longer. So for example 2. Distance, that's fully procedural. And let's just sim that for now, but as a single piece of cloth to just get a sense of movement. Yeah, that looks pretty nice. Okay, let's just enable the copies. And of course you can do like, I don't know, 50 of those. And then stack them later up together, or do like a longer simulation. But for now, let's just keep it like 10 maybe. That should be fine. Let's simulate those a little bit. Simulation. Let's get a sip of tea here. Nice. Okay, that looks nice, and that too. And now you could also, or already, oh, those are also cool. Now you can already, those are a little bit uniformal, but they're cool too. Now I can already see like interesting perspectives or framings for the camera. So play it forth, play it back, like maybe play it back in real time and have a look how the layers will develop over time. So can play it back and forward to just see like interesting angles or geometry building up to on style frame or to a view that you personally like. I think that's pretty cool here, especially how those two crumble together. Okay, After that, we can use a vellum post process. So we can introduce a little bit of blur and subdivision, of course. We want a nice mesh. Let's go for a loop. Let's detangle it and also extrude it by thickness. So we now have like 1 million polygons, and of course you can also subdivide it. So let's just subdivide that one more time. And of course another like decision you can take in that process is to, yeah, let's go for a loop. Is to play around with the thickness of the cloth. So if you want it like maybe a little bit lighter, or a little bit thicker, so I will go for 0.5, I think should be fine, because I find it a little bit too thick, like in relation to scale. But of course that's fully up to you. Still running, perfect, nice. Okay, I think that's better. Then we can place down a null here. Out. Let's call it cloth. And what we also will drop down is a material. So out cloth matte. Perfect. So now jump up and you can build a material network. So place down the matte net, dive inside, you can rename it. And let's go for a material here. Material builder. Whoops, not that one. The RS matte, let's call it cloth. And we will dive shortly inside, and of course you can build the RS out here for rendering. I think those are all currently standard settings. Yeah, pretty much. Okay, then what we will do now, we will of course first let's view that and then drag the material in there. RS matte cloth, drag it in here. So it's now applied to our cloth, and you can disable and enable the tree viewer here on the side with Shift W. So I find it pretty fast and a nice workflow to just drag and drop materials, or when you want to import other objects with object merge into another geometry container, etc. I find that pretty useful and quick to work with. Okay, now we need a camera. Let's get the naming from here. Close, oh my god. Close up. Wrong naming on every camera, oh my god. Okay, let's just go for like one perspective for now. Maybe something like that here. And copy parameter, paste relative reference 0.1, 0.02. Let's use a bokeh image. Accept. Okay, that's for that. And now we can start to basically play with light. RS light. RS light. Let's go 0, 1. Oh, let's go main. I'll use a gobo for that. Textures. Just basically a simple noise texture here. Disk, and let's just dive into the light. So that will be that. Lock the camera. Now we can see our camera is here, and let's go for like a backlight to get a nice rim effect maybe. Let's have a look on the size. That should be fine for now. Okay, let's start our render for the first time. Let's start the render. And of course, what you also can do to speed it up a little bit, you can delete all basically unnecessary attributes on your imported render geometry. So let's make that window bigger. Let's focus. And you can already see we've got a pretty nice backlit scene for now. And let's just go for default. I want to feather it a little bit, so to get it a little bit softer here. And now we can already start playing. Another thing what I would like to do is to place like a background. So let's go for Geo BG. And let's build up a background for our object. When it comes to backgrounds, you can search like in Google photography backdrops, etc., and like build that up. I think that's also or always a good way to go to like reference real world photography and try to amplify that on the CG space. And yeah, let's just go for a simple backdrop here. Let's place down a grid here. And what I want to do, let's go 2 by 2. And what I want to do is to insert a loop. So let's go for, I think, polydraw. There. And let's go scissors. And we want some loops. I think it was shift click, yeah. Let's go for one. Of course, they don't need to be perfect. Of course, you can just basically tile your grid here, rows, columns. But let's just do that manual a little bit. I think that should be fine for now. And let's go for edit. And what I want to do, I want to select those edges here, that one. I want to push that up a little bit. Just like that. And then I want another topo build. Let's reset all edits. And let's introduce here a few more loops. And then what we could do is like a bend and a subdivide. Let's go for a subdivide. Let's subdivide that a little bit. And then you can use the bend, for example, to play around with the shape. if you want to. Okay, nice. Cool, that's our really simple backdrop. So nothing fancy here. Let's move that down a little bit. Of course, you can also do that on the top level if you want to. And now let's create here a material node on RSBG, the backdrop, and let's also pop a null in here. Let's call it out BG. Let's stay organized and jump in the top level, and let's create a new material and call it RS mat backdrop, and we also will link that. So backdrop, just drag and drop into the material. Nice, perfect. So now we got the camera, we've got the backdrop, and let's restart our render engine. Render engine is started up correctly. Nice. Okay, that's looking not bad. Let's give it one more light in the scene. So that's of course fully up to you, but let's play a little bit. So we've got one light here. That will be basically our main rim light, and then we can get another light to illuminate the backdrop a little bit. So we can lock our camera and move the other light, for example, like here. Let's reload our scene and have a look. Maybe we need to play with the spread. Maybe we need to get the backdrop a little bit more in the back. Yeah, but that's looking alright. We will get a little bit of spill here and here, but I think that's fine. So you could play with the light. Whoops. And you of course can also play with the backdrop material. So for now I will make it a little bit more rough. Of course you can also play with reflective or refractive backdrops. That's fully up to you. And now you can play with the color, but let's just leave it pure white. It's not. Let's just go for 925 white here. Okay, nice. So let's dive into our fabric material. So start with the shading here. That's the material we built. It's not that complicated. So we will start with the new standard material and pipe that in here. And now let's get a quick rundown. So we want a glass material. Oh, of course you could also use like a fabric texture or something else. What I want to do, I want to get the transmission, so basically like a glass material to 1, and let's just refresh it because that doesn't seem alright here. So we will refresh it. Let me just have a look. Okay, let's just refresh it. Yeah, that's much better. So we got a value of 1 in the transmission. Then another thing I did here is to increase the IOR, so basically the index of refraction to 2.28. You can also do, for example, 2.18. So that's of course fully up to you. Then you can play with the roughness on the reflection side. So for example, you can bring that down, you can bring it up. That's fully up to you. I will go for 0.1 for now. Then another thing is the thin film. The thin film got a range from I think 0 to 1000. Yeah. And now we can play with that. So I placed them, oh no, not that, maxo noise here. Let's get a maxo noise and let's connect that to the output and have a look. Let's go for Luca, and I don't know, 0.155. So you get those swirlies here, or those patterns. You can also use the UV vertex attribute and use the dist, for example. We placed on our, or calculated on our geometry earlier. And you will see just in a second that we will get something like that. So you could use the dist, for example, too. I will stick for object for now. And let's get a scalar ramp here. So we can basically remap the values a little bit. So let's get it a little bit more contrasty. So for the bump input, let's get a bump, pipe that into input. I think I didn't change some, yeah, of course the scale, but let's go for bump here and let's pipe that into here. And of course the bump is now way too high. You can use it if you want to go for a look, or for like a different look, but let's just decrease it to 0.001. And I think I even further decreased it here on my initial shader. No, okay, it was 0.001. Then we've got the information that our thin film thickness ranges from basically 0 to 1000. So we can change the scale here on the ramp. Change range. So we will get like the full thin film range into our shader. Input the old value 0 to 1, and the new range will be, let's go for 1 to 1000, and pipe that into our thin film thickness. Now I can see that, so the thin film is already happening. And what we then can also use, get a other color in the reflection to overdo it, or like yeah, get a little more color in there. So reflection color, and now you can also start to play. So we got our subtle thin film on here. So for example, bluish tones to like more reddish tones. So that's also pretty cool. And now let's play with the ramp here. For example, from yellow to, I don't know, red, blue. That's fully up to you. So you can play around with the color here. And now let's go for, I think, yeah, it was a more subtle color here. So let's decrease that and that a little bit. Like a bluish color. I think what I also did is to yeah, the rough. Of course, you can play with the roughness. You can get a code in there, so that will be also, I think, a nice thing to play with coding effects. And then what you also can do, play with the backdrop. So the backdrop is, I think, another crucial thing you can use to, yeah, basically increase or decrease your look. You can go for a more subtle look here, what I really like. And of course your lights. Let's go for like a bluish light here. So you will get this bluish tone in here, and for the main light you can go for, I don't know, like an orange light, for example, so you can play around with the light color. And let's go for roughness. You can play with the reflection here, with the IOR, so you get a more intense look, basically. You can play with that IOR here, or you can also, 0.5. You can also play with the IOR on the film, so you can do that too. You can basically go from 0 to, let's get a look here. 0 to 2.2 to 3, and you can see it will change, of course. Then you can play around with what light is on or off. So for example, that's now only our main light from the side. So you can use something like that, and let's go for the backdrop again. Let's play with the color here again. So for example, you could go for something like neutral, and you now get really nice colors in here. You can go for bluish tone, yellow, whatever you like, basically. That's again fully up to you. I think I will go for like a reddish tone. I really like that. Oh, I just really love the blue one. I think I will go for like a desaturated bluish tone. And now the next cool thing is grab your camera, make a copy of it, dive inside, refresh the render view so your camera is also updated for the render view is updated for your new camera, and you can get around here and see how it will look, for example, in like a full shot, in like a close shot from another angle. Of course, you can then rotate your backdrop, or you don't want a backdrop. That's pretty much up to you. Oh, that looks cool. And we can go for a little bit more dramatic circle of confusion here. Yeah, now you can basically go around, place different lights, get some nice angles here. I think that top would be also nice. And basically start playing around. With your newly created shader and your vellum, etc. That looks also pretty cool. Okay, I hope you liked that tutorial, and I will see you next month in the next Patreon. And yeah, stay safe, and I will see you in the next one.